Welcome back to another Tuesday Live. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Just enjoyed another OU whomping in some basketball. Jose, are you ready to buy in on this Porter Moser led team?
Nope.
The boys are good.
They're
They don't
good.
look bad. They don't look bad, but I'm going to wait till conference play. Because last year they started off pretty good. If it wasn't for the Utah State, was it Utah State loss in the invitational final? They would have been
They didn't
the same
start
as
off
this year.
like this.
What if they knock off Arkansas on Saturday, who knocked off Duke? Although Duke, they might not be very good.
Yeah, I don't know.
With
We'll
that,
see.
and then we actually played North Carolina the game after.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Is that middle of next week?
I think so. It's like Tuesday or Wednesday of next week.
Yeah.
Is that
I'll
in Chapel
tune-
Hill?
Yes.
Damn,
It's the Jumpman Classic.
that would be
I'll
a
try
fun
to-
one to go to.
I'll try to tune into a couple games. Just watching college basketball to me, even professional basketball now sometimes, it's just like watching 10 guys at the local LA Fitness. They just play around the perimeter. No one really tries to drive into the bucket. That's why I really only like Thunder basketball. They play old school.
Well,
I tried
anyway,
watching a college basketball game, and I was miserable after 10 minutes.
yeah, I don't know. OU's 8-0. Play Arkansas on Saturday. Porter Moser's got the guys rolling. So,
Look, I hope they're good, but, I'm not quite there to saying they're good. They're better. They're definitely better.
I mean, they're the number 19 team in the country right now, so it's a lot better than what they have been.
That's true. That is 100% true. A lot has happened since a week ago. Obviously, transfer portal opened, but we're gonna, while people trickle in, and I guess before we even get there, thank you everyone for joining already. We're already at 58, 60. I'm not really sure if this thing's up to date. Not even 3 minutes in. Appreciate you all watching. Make sure you're liking the stream. That helps us out a ton. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already and share it so that we can keep growing this thing. Goal is 10,000 subscribers at the end of next year. Hopefully before the end, but got to set those goals high.
The goal for this stream is 6,100 subscribers. We are 25 away.
We can
Almost
do
there.
it.
Yeah, 25 away. You guys last week, we went up like 50 subscribers over the last couple of days. So if you're new here, it's free and easy. Turn the notification bell on. Just hit the button, and it helps us out a lot. Helps us grow, get more like-minded individuals in here, and talk some OU football and OU sports.
We
and
do
Twitter
not
and
charge.
Instagram.
That is true. It's free here. Unless
It
you want to
is.
help us out, It's always
Yeah,
nice.
unless you want to donate there, but it's not.
We're not gonna stop you from doing that. All right. So while we let more people trickle in here, I know it's probably not everyone's favorite topic, but we got to talk about it, like every college football podcast does. The playoff standings. Some people liked them, some people didn't like them. I myself was probably angry for about 5 hours while I drove back from Vegas after watching that show. But Brum, I'm gonna kick it to you because I think out of the three of us, this is one of those times where you're the lone duck on an island. What do you
I am
think
on an island.
about these?
We were texting before the ranking show, or the final show that they had, and Brandon asked, who are your final four, and I chose Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. And at the end of the day, what the College Football Playoff Committee has been saying for the last 10 years are the four best teams right now. And I understand if Jordan Travis was healthy, I 100% agree Jordan Travis and the Florida State Seminoles would be in and the SEC would be left out. But he's not. And the last two games that you watched of Florida State playing Louisville and Florida, painful. And they would be a 15 to 18 point underdog to Michigan, probably 14-18. And this is one of the first times in a long time. I mean, last year Last year both games were competitive, but most of the years, the semifinal games are not competitive. I mean, I guess the first year of the college football playoffs were competitive with Cardale Jones and the Buckeyes, and then last year they were both competitive. But outside of that, there weren't a ton of competitive games. The 4 best teams, Alabama's one of the 4 best teams. Do I think that they will win a national championship? Probably not. I don't think. I mean, I could see Nick Saban, but I wouldn't probably pick him. You can see Michigan's reaction in the video whenever they found out that they're going to be playing Alabama, and they were a little like, "Oh no, we got to play Nick Saban." They very well could win the national championship. Is Florida State more deserving? Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Vegas agrees with this, considering in the Orange Bowl they are a 15-point underdog to the Bulldogs in Georgia. Because in all reality, that's about the line that it would be against Michigan. And they're not one of the 4 best teams right now. I'm sorry, but that's my thought. I mean, Florida State's more deserving. Alabama's better. If you put them on a neutral field, who would win? And at the end of the day, I think all 3 of us would pick Alabama to win that game.
And I think all 3 of us back in the day would have picked Alabama to beat a third stringer in Cardale Jones. But that's why you play the game. I think.
But there wasn't another team
Florida
to
State,
go
I
over the
understand.
Buckeyes.
This year, it was probably the toughest that they had since the inception of the playoff, because there was a lot of teams that I think were deserving. But how can you definitively sit here? It's an opinion-based committee thing, so which is the garbage part of the 4 best teams, because that's just a bunch of dudes in suits who are deciding who are the 4 best teams in the country. Florida State is 13-0, a Power 5 conference champion, knocked off a number 5 team in the country on their opening game in LSU with a guy that a lot of people think should be the Heisman at quarterback. Then they just beat a Louisville team that was top 15 in the country with a true freshman. Their defense is a playoff caliber defense. Florida State got screwed. There's in my opinion, there's no way around it. Like, it's stupid. I think there's no way that they should have not been in. It is what it is now. But I think they screwed that one up.
So I've been thinking about it quite a bit. Like I said, I was angry for 5 hours, and Oklahoma had nothing to do with that. Like, I don't know why it just frustrated me that, because like Brandon said, it's very subjective. It's all opinion based, and it's ADs that pick this. I think mostly ADs. I think 1 or 2 media members. Like, the committee's made up of mostly people that don't have the time.
Former coaches too.
And former coaches, but most of the time don't have enough time to watch every single game of let's just say the top 10 teams from week 8 on. So for 4 weeks, they don't have enough time to watch all the snaps of every game. But what you do see at the end of the day is the win-loss. And in my opinion, even if Florida State doesn't have Jordan Travis, like, if Harbaugh was still suspended up until the first game of the college football playoffs, Michigan would not have been penalized for that. They would have still been 1 or 2, and they would have gone on. Because the rule that was, or the criteria that was used for Florida State not getting in is because Jordan Travis is out, which is fine. You know, he is definitely one of the better QBs in the country, and he got hurt. That sucks. But the team still controlled what they could control. They won. They beat everyone. Like, unless the ACC is somehow significantly worse and no longer a Power 5 conference, which last time I checked it is, they should have been in. I get that they may not be on paper one of the best teams, but I mean, Washington was a 9.5-point underdog against Oregon, and they actually made that game look a lot easier than they did the first time, and that was a neutral site. Alabama almost lost to an Auburn team. While it wasn't a road game, they almost lost to an Auburn team that got ran by New Mexico State.
They also almost lost to an Arkansas team that is horrible.
Yeah, I mean, Texas had a couple of nail biters there against TCU. Houston was tied to Wyoming at halftime earlier in the season. Like, you can't say that just because they don't have their quarterback, they are significantly worse. Because Texas doesn't have their starting running back, and no one's batting an eye. And I think that does make a difference for them. Like, that their running game hasn't been as good with Baxter as it was with Brooks.
Yeah, I think so. After Alabama won and beat Georgia, who was on a 29-game win streak, number 1 team in the country forever, They should be in. I agree with that. I think the committee was afraid after Alabama beat Georgia because they knew at that point they have to put Alabama in. And if you put Alabama in and you don't put Texas in, who beat Alabama, then, you're in trouble there, I guess. But at the end of the day, Texas should have got leapfrogged. And I understand they beat Alabama. It is what it is.
One more thing, and we'll kick it back to Brum. In my mind, the ranking should have been Michigan, Washington. That's right. And then Florida State, just because they went undefeated, they get 3. And either Alabama or Texas. It really doesn't matter. You can pick whoever you want it for. But you're telling me that you think Washington would run Florida State after Washington, even though Washington is a very good team, they've also had some stinkers throughout the season. Like Florida State could make that look competitive. Or they might even win that game because their defense is good enough.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're rolling out your second and third string quarterback, it's tough. And
Ohio State won it on a third string quarterback. It can be done. They showed it's possible.
It can be done.
And they beat Alabama in the semifinal game, and they kind of ran them out of the gym.
I did say I wouldn't pick Alabama to win it all, but I could see them winning it all. I could see them beating Michigan.
I think they will. I think that's my pick.
Yeah,
Same.
and then it'll be like, okay, well, this is a moot point. I mean,
in my opinion, I think Bama should have always been 4 because even if you just look strength of record, not strength of schedule, Bama was 4 even after losing to Texas.
And you asked about Washington. To be completely honest with you, I think they would run FSU. I really do. I think Penix is that good. And I was doubting Washington going in that Oregon game. I thought Oregon would beat them.
At 2 scores, you said.
I was totally wrong. I mean, Oregon was playing really good ball. And I was convinced that Oregon was going to be in the playoffs. And I didn't think it would be a question. And I was totally wrong. I mean, after watching that, it's changed my whole perspective that I think that Texas-Washington game is going to be great.
I agree.
But I mean, Washington wins, of course, but
I want to say I did say Washington beat Oregon early in the season, and I think that matters a little bit. And I was told that that's lunatic, but it worked out here. And then I guess one that is closer to home, obviously, is the New Year's Six selection because I think that was totally screwed up too. I think it came down to Penn State, Oklahoma as one of the teams, and they obviously picked Penn State for a New Year's Six bowl. And I was reading through it, and one of the arguments for Penn State was they had a super impressive win, like they won by a large margin against a very good Iowa team. I don't know if you guys have watched Iowa. That's not a very good football team at all. They can't. That's the worst offense I've ever seen assembled in my life. I have no idea how Penn State, with the same record as Oklahoma, has 0 good wins. How are they in the New Year's Six bowl and Oklahoma's playing the Alamo Bowl? That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. It could be the same thing you could say about Ole Miss and Missouri. I mean, Oklahoma had every right to go into a New Year's Six, probably play in the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State. And that's where I thought they were going to go, to be completely honest with you, when Texas was going to the playoffs. I thought they were going to sneak into a New Year's Six. And Oklahoma's resume, I mean, with SMU winning the American Athletic Conference,
they beat 2 conference champions.
Yeah, 2 conference champions. I mean, at the end of the day, are OU's losses bad? Yeah, but I mean, are you really going to tell me that because Penn State can never beat Ohio State and Michigan, and they can just beat the bottom feeders of their conference, that they're deserving, and they beat a really good Iowa team that are basically the New England Patriots of the college football, and the Patriots can't score just like Iowa? I mean, it doesn't take much. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm glad. If we were in the SEC, we would have been in a New Year's Six bowl with that record and that schedule. So we won't have to worry about that. And it's going to be a 12-team playoff next year. And this whole debate of who's in, who's out, that 13th team,
it's still going to weigh on because 13 is going to feel like they got screwed.
But
it's never going to end.
But at the end of the day, the odds of a 13th ranked team winning it all are way lower than a 5th ranked team. Like, I could see right now, if we were in a 12-team format, I could see Georgia competing and potentially winning it, if they were given the opportunity. And even Ohio State to a certain degree. You look at, I think Oklahoma would have, give a run for their money. Could Penn State get a win? There's actually some decent teams when you start looking at 5 through 10, 11 area. But when you start getting 12, 13, 14, 15, the odds of you actually winning it all are not very high. But we're basically at 170 people. There's been a lot of people that have joined. We've been just talking. We're 25 subscribers away from 6,100. New here. Hit the button now. It's free and easy. Turn that notification bell on. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. But yeah, so it's ridiculous that OU was left out. I wish we were in the Alamo Bowl playing USC. That would have been awesome. But USC was too bad to even make the Alamo Bowl. So what does that say, right?
Arizona is a tougher team. I think that will be a better win. They're winners of 6 in a row. They've really started to look pretty good towards the end of the season. We're going to be running with a new quarterback, to a degree. He's never really started a game start to finish, so he's going to be relatively new, but we're all excited about Jackson Arnold. We're running a new offense. It's going to be interesting to see Oklahoma play that game. I think it's a good test for JA in game 1 and both Seth Luttrell and Joe John, calling the show here.
Oh, it's going to be a great game. I think Arizona is a very competitive team. I don't know. Has the line been released on that game? I'm guessing it has.
I think it's Arizona's a 3-point favorite right now.
It's what it opened as.
Yeah. Probably just because it's Jackson Arnold in his first career start, I'm guessing, is really why Arizona's favored right now. If Dillon was playing in it, it'd be a different story. Should we start there with the transfer portal with Dillon Gabriel? All right. Well, if you've been living under a rock, this might be the first time you're hearing it, but I'd imagine pretty much everyone that's watching it. The transfer portal is online and it is active and it is wild.
Did you see there's like 400 or something more players that hit the portal on day 1 versus last year?
No, I didn't.
Like 1,100 some odd players entered the portal on day 1 this year. Last year was like 745 or 750 something.
What's surprising is the amount of young players and starters. Like Kyle McCord, why is he in the portal?
That was weird.
He's a starting quarterback for Ohio State. Even if you're not, more often than not, you're going to suck in the NFL, you're probably going to be a first-round pick if you're a good starting quarterback at Ohio State. Apparently, he's leaning towards Nebraska now, but no.
I feel like that's a huge downgrade for him, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then, but I think when you look at more of the transfer portal, it's a lot of 6- and 7-year guys that got extra years due to red shirts and COVID, which I think at this point, this is probably going to be the year where you see the most transfer portal because of that. And this transfer portal is a couple years removed from that 2020-2021 class, the 2020 and 2021 classes. Or I guess it's the 2021 class that didn't get to be recruited in a traditional way because of COVID. So they had to do all like Zoom and phone calls mainly. So they didn't get those experiences like normal recruits do where they go on official visits and all that stuff. Or I don't even remember if they did that. They was probably very limited in what they could do because of COVID regulations. So that's probably also a reason why there's so many young players because they want to get that full. Maybe they chose because online it seemed like a good idea, but they didn't fit in. They gave it a try after a couple of years and they decided it's time to move on.
It is interesting. The Kyle McCord one threw me through a loop just because, he hasn't lived quite up to the expectations, but he wasn't necessarily horrible. So Ohio State's in the market. But yeah, Dillon Gabriel, we talked about Dillon a little bit, whether he goes to the portal, comes back for another year. I thought for a second, maybe there is a chance that he comes back, but I think that was before Levy announced that he was going to Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And Brandon, you and I were on the same page that him hitting the portal would make a lot of sense because he's going to be in high demand. As Matt Rule said, a good starting quarterback is $1 million or $2 million or more in the transfer portal right now. He's not projected to be, the number one overall pick to, go cash in $40 million in his first contract. But he very well can go find another program, $1 million, $2 million in NIL next year, have a fantastic season, probably get drafted, a day 2 kind of guy, and then cash in your NFL contract. You just delay the inevitable that you're going to be a day 2 guy, regardless if you go this year or next year, as long as he goes to the right school and the right program. The programs that I've seen, he seems to be wanting to go out to the West Coast, like he originally was going to do when he transferred to UCLA, because, being out in Hawaii, he would make sense he'd want to be on the West Coast. The irony of potentially USC and Oregon, not so much Oregon, but USC, old Lincoln Riley trying to come in and scoop up OU's former quarterback would be hilarious. Part of me thinks that I would have a hard time seeing him go there because he knows,
it's not going to go
the
well.
history.
Yeah, I don't.
At the end of the day, you gotta do the best for him, right? For himself.
Before we move on, this has to be addressed. Our friend Matt Bingham here, coming back. His baby was just born. Congratulations, Matt.
Congrats, Matt. That's awesome.
Nice.
Big day for you in the fam. New member of Sooner Nation.
Wow. Awesome.
But yeah, the transfer portal. Brandon, I think you're about to go.
I was just saying.
You there.
We talked about it last week, and you were right. We were talking about Dillon Gabriel to the portal makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I thought, and I think we all agreed, that Mississippi State makes the most sense. I don't know who's going to play quarterback at Mississippi State next year because Will Rogers is done, I believe. It would have been a perfect, he's really good in Jeff Levy's system. He's not a guy who's going to be a first-round pick. Why not go ball out in Jeff Levy's system again? Raise your draft stock as much as you can. It'd be a perfect bridge quarterback for Jeff Levy, to get his guy in the future. It made perfect sense. That marriage, I thought, was for sure going to happen if he did hit the portal. It looks like he's going to Oregon, which I guess, like you're right, Brum. He's from Hawaii. That makes sense. You want him wanting to play West Coast. I think he can do well in Oregon too. I wonder if he grew up being a Marcus Mariota fan. He's from the islands too, and he played at Oregon. I think that might have a little bit of a factor in his decision if he does ultimately choose Oregon. And I wouldn't hate if he picked Oregon. If he picks Oregon, I think we can all still cheer for him. If he goes to USC, I probably won't cheer for him anymore.
I think he's kind of earned the right to pick wherever he goes, but Oregon is probably the better place for him. Like, I know Lincoln Riley does really good stuff with quarterbacks, but when you look at it, at the end of the day, quarterbacks are still judged by how many games your team can win. Going into the season, even Oklahoma fans, to an extent, were like, Dillon Gabriel's not the guy. And maybe he's not a first-round Heisman-level quarterback, but he's a damn good player. If he goes to Oregon and wins 10, 11 games, or even helps them get to the playoffs next season, he goes from being a around 3-4 guy if he has a good year to being a late first, maybe even a second round guy just because his team won games and got to the playoffs. Like that's kind of impact. Even though I was the guy from this trio that said I don't think he can really raise the stock, it would have to take going to a team like Oregon that can compete probably in the Big Ten, where there isn't the competition. When you look at it, I mean, Oregon's still a really good team, and I think they can compete in the Big Ten. They're a pretty physical team in the trenches. So he's got a shot. I mean, it's definitely going to be a little bit different style of football. Weather's going to affect him a little bit more. It's going to be interesting how they use him. And him not going to Mississippi State is a little surprising. Like you said, Brandon, given that he has a lot of familiarity with Levy, maybe he's like, I need to prove that I can excel in another system. And Will Stein was a guy that for a little bit was rumored to be in the running for the OU OC job. It was a very, very small chance that was happening, but he runs a good system. I mean, he revived Bo Nix And Bo Nix, when he left Auburn, looked like a lost cause, and now he, for 10 out of the 12 weeks of the regular season, looked like he was going to be a Heisman winner.
I mean, with DG, he's a guy that started at Central Florida, didn't have a whole lot of success as a team there. He was great, but the team was never fantastic. Then he came to Oklahoma, went 6-7. He was finally part of a 10-win team here at Oklahoma. I think he's probably going to want to keep that winning train going. If he wants to win, Oregon is the most win-ready team. It makes the most sense.
All right. Shout out Jacob Matthews here. Thanks for the super chat or sticker. I honestly don't remember what they're called. Here's his comment. If we don't get any of the Texas A&M elite defensive line transfers, will our transfer portal haul be a letdown? And since everybody's leaving, can we flip Bussey and McKinley? Who wants to address?
I think the only one
question 1 then question 2.
The only one I'd want out of the Texas A&M D-line transfer, I think, is DJ Hicks now. At first, I was all about everybody. I think LT Overton just hit the portal today. It's a guy that we were in on. I think just give me DJ Hicks.
Technically, Hicks is not in the portal.
He's coming.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be a letdown. I think Oklahoma will put together a better haul than they did last year. I think Oklahoma's going to have an easier time selling defensive players to come play for Oklahoma after putting together a solid product on the field with what they had. And so I think Oklahoma, like Lane just, made a comment that Chris McClellan from Florida would be great. I mean, if we lock down Chris McClellan, that's a big time win right there. I mean, he played as a freshman along the defensive line in the SEC at Florida. You go get some corners, you go get some offensive linemen that can play. I don't believe it would be a letdown. I think Oklahoma's going to make every shot or every chance, take every swing that they can with Dominic McKinley. I think Oklahoma's going to make this interesting. Oklahoma seemed to never kind of stop, at least keeping tabs on him, even when he committed to Texas A&M, because to be honest, I bet this OU staff felt like that there was a chance that this could happen, that A&M could fire Jimbo. And with that in mind, they probably were like, well, we just better keep tabs just in case. Oklahoma, I think, has a legitimate shot to McKinley. I wouldn't hold my breath. I mean, Texas is going to be tough. LSU will be tough. But Oklahoma seemed to be a second or third place in that initial recruitment. And so I don't know about Bussey or Boosie.
Boosie badass.
I'd love to have him, of course. But I think you're going to see that this transfer portal haul is going to be good. And Oklahoma now has to take a running back.
Do they?
I believe they would. I mean, because
you've still got Devontae Barnes. You've still got Gavin Sawchuk. You got Taylor Tatum coming next year. I'm not too concerned about running backs. Sorry, Hose.
I was going to say, because I think that would be a good discussion. I was just going to say real quick on his question. I personally believe that OU fans, and to an extent probably the three of us including, are probably going to be way too sold on, because we missed out on those guys that picked A&M over Oklahoma, now that they potentially enter the portal or are in the portal, OU, like, if OU doesn't win them, it's a loss. Like, outside of LT Overton, DJ Hicks played a little bit this year. If Dindy decides to enter the portal, he hasn't played a ton at A&M, so you're getting a pretty raw talent still in him. So can you develop him, and is he going to be the guy that we've all expected him to be? Sometimes the stars and the ratings and the fact that it was a miss coming out of high school seems to affect the perception of when they're in the portal. With McKinley and Bussey, I agree with Brum about McKinley, and the Bussey stuff is still kind of interesting because he's been very open about it. I'm just going to give them a shot to kind of sell me on it again. So if he changes his mind, it'll be probably over the next week, and then he'll commit to wherever he goes on signing day. But back to the running back conversation you guys were having.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the running back room, I don't think you need someone necessarily to, come in and be a starter potentially. But I do think that you are looking for an elite running back if you can take him. I just feel like if you have 3 running backs, it's a little thin if someone gets hurt. Then if someone gets hurt, then you're down to 2. And DeMarco Murray runs very much a committee, running back by committee room. I just feel like you need 4 viable guys. And I think
Xavier Robinson's there too. He's going to be a Tommy Walker-esque running back, I think.
Who did you say?
Xavier Robinson.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, I do. I just feel like Oklahoma will take 1 because they were trying to keep Dillon Smothers. If Dillon Smothers didn't leave, I don't think that they would be even really looking. I think that Smothers leaving opens the door. And looking at who's left and who's announced officially. So you did lose Tolly Walker, Marcus Major, and Dillon Smothers. So you lost 3 running backs. Naturally, you would think that Oklahoma. I mean, you're adding Robinson, and then you're adding Taylor Tatum. So you're adding 2. So you would think you'd add 1 more there in my mind, but maybe not. DJ Graham, not really shocking. Jason Llewellyn, Savion Byrd, Nate Anderson, and then really we were talking about the offensive line. So you lose Nate Anderson and Savion Byrd, and then you're expected to lose Andrew Rame, Tyler Guyton. And
McCade Matauer's gone too.
McCade's
and
gone.
Walter Rouse.
Yeah, Walter Rouse, Caleb Schaefer. I mean, you've lost, whether it's the transfer portal, the NFL draft, or graduating. You've lost along the offensive line. Let me count real quick. You're losing 5? I think 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you're losing 6 guys
4
officially.
starters.
Well, they're not all starters, but
Andrew Rame's a starter, Walter Rouse is a starter, McCade Matauer's a starter, so 3 starters.
Well, you're losing 5. Guyton too.
You got Caden Green. I'm counting Caden Green as a starter. Yeah, 4.
Yeah, so you're losing 4 of your 5 starters. I think you're going to see Oklahoma and Coach B become very aggressive. You saw Eddie Pierre-Louis, some crystal balls and things like that, and Coach B going to visit him, and it seems like Oklahoma might have pressed him a little harder and say, hey, you've got an opportunity to come in and compete day 1. Oklahoma, the offensive line has turned into, in my mind, priority number 1.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
I
100%.
Yeah.
You laid it out the best last week, bro, when we were talking about the transfer portal and what you should go after. And you said it yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of scared yourself into O-line being the number 1 priority, and you're saying it again. There's a lot of guys leaving either because of NFL draft or graduation, and you have talent, but behind them, it's a lot of inexperienced talent. So you do have to find some help at least, where you're confident enough that if the young guys do show up to camp and they're the best guy, you have someone behind them that if injuries happen, which in football they always do, even though we hope they never did, you have someone to back them up. To me, offensive line and to an extent defensive line are really the place where Oklahoma needs to go get more guys. Anywhere between 7 to 10 guys on either of in that group alone. To me, the tight end talk seems unnecessary.
It's an area of need.
It's an area of need, but I think we haven't even seen what we have in that room. And I know the coaches know more. They see him in practice every day. But you have a very talented and big tight end coming in with Devon Mitchell. We haven't really seen Caden Helms play, and it's a lot due to injury. Cade McIntyre is there. So you need one guy, maybe for depth. Oh, we still have Blake Smith, right? I don't think he's technically graduated. Bro, you might know better on that one than.
Yeah, I don't think he is. But see, I would argue that tight end is a massive need.
I agree. I'm the biggest Devon Mitchell fan of all time, but at the end of the day, the dude next year is technically a high school senior age-wise. He's going to be 17, or very young 18 playing SEC football. I was actually talking with my buddy Alex because I was raging about Devon Mitchell being the guy, and he kind of put it into some perspective for me. He's going to be very young. I don't think he's going to be ready right away. Caden Helms clearly has a little bit of injury bug stuff going on. I think he could be really good, but you're really not. I'm not very confident at tight end going into next season either, for the bowl game. Is it going to be Blake Smith starting? No, Stogner's still
I'm
there.
not sure.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Stogner's still
Stoggs
there
is
for the bowl game. I just think that they're selling that room short, trying to always get more tight ends every year. Like, when are you going to give those young guys a chance? You
I
don't
think
even
Caden
know.
Helms will probably get a chance if he can put it together and stay healthy right now.
McIntyre, Cade McIntyre, got a couple snaps early on in the year, and he looked decent. I mean, maybe he's not big enough to block yet, but that's why you have Blake Smith there. If he's still on the roster, you go in and, you put him as your inline blocker and have one of the younger guys be the pass catcher until they bulk up enough. That's just my my thoughts. I know they're probably going to end up taking one tight end, and it makes sense because you do need some depth there. You only have four guys in that room next year since Llewellyn left, and Stogner will be gone due to graduation, so it makes sense. The places of need definitely are just the trenches, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so, I mean, let's just talk a couple names here. I mean, a former Oklahoma Sooner and Jalen Conyers is an opportunity, a potential target, and then Mark Redmond from San Diego State. It seems like Oklahoma kind of found a couple guys that they like, and obviously they've got some sort of connection back to Jalen. I think you're going to see Latrell really go after one and do this, but
I like Jalen Conyers a lot.
Yeah, he's extremely talented with the ball in his hands. He just is totally different. He doesn't really block a whole lot.
Who needs that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You need a blocking tight end more so than you need pass catchers. Like, Caden Helms came in being more so a wide receiver type tight end. He has tight end size, but played receiver in high school. Von Mitchell's a good pass catcher. Cade McIntyre was a pass catcher in high school. So you have pass catchers. You just don't have the big body to block in the run game.
Yeah. I think we got to pause for a second. We're at 281 people right now, 281. So I know that at least there's a couple of you that are not subscribed. I'm going to plug it again. We're 23 away from 6,100. Help us out. Just going to throw that in there. I feel like a lot of people probably want to talk a little defensive line. Potential targets.
Maybe Chris McClellan. He went down to Florida year one. Like you said, Rome, he played. He was, maybe not a whole lot, but he was a guy that was relevant in their rotation. Maybe he went down there, hated Gainesville, which who can blame him? And then maybe he's missing home. He is an Owasso product.
If Oklahoma went and got Chris McClellan, you remember talking about him, was it 2 years ago?
Early on in the show's life. We talked about him and Gentry. I mean, this portal, that's what I'm saying. This portal season, basically, we're just reviving year one of our show and reiterating what we said about all those guys.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously with Chris McClellan, he was being recruited by the previous staff. And it seemed like he just didn't jive at the time with the previous staff. And you would think that with Todd Bates that he's going to be able to right the ship here. I would think he's looking to move closer to home. Also probably to go look for a better program than Florida. I mean, Florida's been an absolute train wreck. And yeah, Lane, you're probably right. He probably didn't want to play for Grinch because I don't blame him either for not wanting to play for him. But
he knew before we all knew.
He did. He called him out, and he went to be a Gator. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, they're a train wreck, the same. But if Oklahoma can prioritize someone number one on the defensive line that is currently in the portal, in my mind, Chris McClellan is number one. And I know everyone's talking about DJ Hicks, but at the end of the day, DJ Hicks is not in the portal.
It's coming.
One can hope, but I mean, I would think Oklahoma has a very legitimate shot of landing Chris McClellan. I think you're going to see him take a visit to Oklahoma. I think he's going to end up a Sooner.
I'd be okay with that.
Maybe I'm being biased, but I just think he's going to come home. You know, him and Gentry, I know they're friends. He's got
They
that
took every
connection.
visit together
Yeah.
back when they were getting recruited.
Yeah. I mean, and then LT Overton.
Legacy.
Yeah.
That's one that intrigues me because he was Cristobal. I looked back at his history and was kind of trying to remember how we talked about him.
Mhm.
It was between A&M and Oklahoma down the stretch. And I think what kind of boned Oklahoma there is, I mean, A&M obviously dropped a huge bag, but
Was he committed at once? I thought he was committed.
He was not committed, but he
sure?
reclassified. He was originally a 2023 kid, and I think that's what put Oklahoma behind the ball there because we had brought in that new staff, and it was getting to.
No, it was
know
Brownlow
them.
Dindy. I'm thinking of Brownlow Dindy. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
Dindy
committed.
was committed. Yeah.
So did LT? He had an older brother,
Yeah.
didn't he?
He
And
was a defensive lineman out of Liberty. Can't remember his name, but he was there.
He was transferred in. Basically, they were a package deal. Did he by chance graduate?
Mm-mm. He's transferring as well. It's just like when he was getting recruited at high school. If you take LT, you take the older one.
We really are running it back. Like you said, we're running
I'm
it
having
back.
flashbacks right
Yeah.
now.
Just pull our old videos and post those.
I mean, if you guys want to watch our videos from 3 years ago, I can't guarantee they're good quality. They're fun to watch, but they're there. We were talking about these
All
same
we gotta
guys.
do is pull them up and drop them tomorrow. It's the same thing, yeah.
It really is. It's just OU and A&M. Just we need to recycle that. No, but he hasn't done a whole lot at A&M, and he's been there for 2 years. But I do think that reclassifying along the defensive line in the SEC play puts you a little bit behind the 8 ball there. So I can't hold that against him. I mean, he was in the rotation being at A&M, but part of me also thinks that, at the end of the day, if he didn't produce for a couple of years, is he still a 5-star? At the end of the day, these rankings and these stars and stuff are not always accurate. I mean, you get some kids that are 3-stars that we're not excited about, like, not winning the off season, and they come in and compete and contribute year one. I mean, but then you get 5-stars like Peyton Bowen that are immediate impact players, and they are every bit as good as as advertised.
Yeah, he's as advertised for sure.
I mean, 100%. I mean, that he is something that Oklahoma needed badly, and he proved it. And I think you'll just see him skyrocket into a first-round pick. But I think to some degree, Oklahoma and Oklahoma fans have to come to some sort of realization that there are a lot of former 5-stars out there. I'm not saying he's not good, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, there might be a better transfer out there that can contribute.
We got to pause. We got to 300. I don't know if this is the first time we got to 300, but it's definitely been the first time in a while.
We went over 300 when we had Travis and JP and Parker Thune on once on a live stream. That one was like 500, but I think this might be the first 300 with just us 3 idiots.
100%.
Shout out, y'all.
Hell yeah. Like and subscribe, people. With the thing you're talking about, Overton, I think what ended up happening there is basically what we all suspected. And we talked about it in our text messages. I read a story, I think it was a week ago. Jimbo Fisher that cycle was just obsessed with getting the best rated players, regardless of position. And most of the top 20, top 40 were defensive linemen. And he got almost all of them. And it was just an extremely crowded room. How are you going to get to play every single 5-star defensive lineman that you got in one cycle when you only have 3 to 4 spots, depending on the snap that you're playing or the team that you're playing, in the scheme? There's a lot of reasons why these guys didn't get snaps. Now, I don't think you're wrong. Some of them probably a lot more raw than others. Walter Nolan is definitely the guy that is probably the prize recruit of that class. Don't think about it. OU probably doesn't have a chance at that one. But when you look at the other guys, let's just say in a perfect world for Oklahoma, all of those guys that were in that 2022 class entered the portal. Dindy's probably the one that you think you have the best shot at because he was committed to Oklahoma, and the only reason he left is because of Lincoln leaving. This defensive line staff probably can sell him a lot better, and he's already familiar with Norman. LT Overton. If anyone's going to win him, I bet it's Oregon, not Georgia. I know he's from Georgia, but Oregon was right there in the mix when he was coming out of high school. And if NIL is a play at all, or if it's like the number one thing, Oregon can cough up a ton of cash. I know Oregon can, or Georgia can too, but Oregon's got Nike money. And then I guess the last one is not 2022, but if DJ Hicks does happen to enter the portal, that's probably the number 2 guy that you think out of the A&M room that you really have a shot at.
I think he's the guy that they would go after the hardest too. If DJ Hicks, when DJ Hicks hits the portal, I think he's the one that we're going to go after the hardest.
Yeah.
Well, in that picture of Todd Bates hanging out with DJ's dad, I know he's
playing chess.
Do what?
He's playing chess.
Yeah, I mean, I know he stopped by to go check in on Petaway. Was it Dijon Petaway? I think that's how you say it.
Mm-hmm. DB commit, yeah, or DBR, yeah.
DB recruit.
And I mean, at the end of the day, you would think that. I mean, obviously, you're going to go see Petaway because Petaway is good in its own right, but
you can do 2 birds, 1 stone there.
It's not your sole reason for going, though.
Definitely not. Definitely not. What about Toriano Pride? I might be messing his first name up because that one, he's the number one. I think he's the number 1 corner in the portal. He's a guy that was at Clemson. Pretty sure Brent Venables maybe helped recruit him back in the day. That would be awesome. And that's another area of need, I think, is corner, because we saw the second corner be kind of shaky whenever Gentry couldn't play. I think Kenai Walker was hit and miss at best. He also entered the portal with a no contact clause or whatever. I don't know if that's the right word, but Hayes Foss posted. I've never seen that in my life. Does that mean that he doesn't want schools contacting him? He's going to be the one reaching out to schools? I've never seen that.
Well, so another player that did it was Riley Leonard, the Duke quarterback, came in with a no contact tag on his portal entry. So in my mind, your mind's already made up where you're going, right?
It feels that way, yeah.
Or at least know which couple schools are, in the mix there.
Yeah, and maybe it is. Maybe he just initiates. I don't know how that works, but I think you go into the portal. If you go with a no contact, you're just like, I've talked to, not supposed to, but there's some reason why that you have an offer to go play at another school and what their NIL package would be, and you're gone, and you don't deal with all that. I mean, we were just talking about, wasn't there a ton of people that are coaches and stuff that follow Chris McClellan or some of these recruits that hit the portal? I mean, it would be probably pretty darn overwhelming as soon as you hit the portal. Your phone would explode. If you're a good player, it would explode. Like Chris McClellan, I am sure he's getting called by everyone.
Well, let's be honest. We've gotten a few years in the portal now, 2 years into NIL. We know how this works. Those players have either an old coach or an agent or a parent or an aunt or an uncle that's getting contacted by other schools, and then that person is in the player's ear saying, hey, so-and-so school is willing to put you in a better position to play or pay you more money or whatever it is that the other schools offer. And I'm not gonna say every school does it, but
every school does it.
Yeah, more than likely. If there's a no contact tag, then he knows what couple schools he wants to go to. And I'm seeing a lot here in the comment section or chat here that Pride is going to Missouri. I think if he goes to Missouri, I don't remember the guy's name, but what did stand out to me, if you guys saw his 247 interview, I think it was yesterday, he had an enormous man sitting next to him. It looks like he ate an offensive lineman. I think if he goes to Missouri, it's because he really influenced the decision. I think it might have been a high school coach or maybe some guy that is very connected in the high school ranks in the state of Missouri. In that interview, he said, I always tell the guys that I work with, look at Missouri first and then go outside of Missouri. But he said, if you're from Oklahoma, go to Oklahoma. Or he didn't mention Oklahoma, but he basically said, if you're from that state, look at the schools in that state before you leave. So I genuinely believe if Missouri is the pick for him, it's because he was highly influenced by him. If he doesn't go to Missouri, he basically said it in the interview. His family and him are very close to Brent Venables. And Brent recruited him to Clemson. He's one of those guys that Brent didn't touch whenever he left Clemson to go to OU as the head coach. You would think Oklahoma's probably, maybe not the front runner, but if you want to put them at number 2, it's more so like they're 1B, not number 2. And I would even say you can argue they're OU's 1A for Pride because of how much he talked about Brent Venables and the relationship he had with him, and his mom has with Brent Venables. We'll see how it goes, but I just think that him going to Missouri is more so on the offensive lineman that ate the offensive lineman and not him.
Those relationships mean a lot, though. They definitely don't suck.
Well, and I will say, if you go into with that no contact tag, it would make a lot of sense that, he's from St. Louis. Columbia is not too terribly far away. He's going back home. And let's face it, I was wrong. We were all wrong. I thought Missouri was not going to have a great season. And maybe that was a little biased that I was hoping that they would be a train wreck. And
Williams Nwaneri changed his mind.
Nwaneri comes back around and becomes available. But they're in a New Year's Six Bowl. Oklahoma isn't. They played well. So Missouri's got a lot of momentum. And they seem to be willing to pay the NIL deals for their in-state products. I know he's coming back from Clemson, but things have changed from the time he went to Clemson to now. Missouri is definitely a lot different as far as a program goes. So it would make a lot of sense. It seems like it's Missouri. OU's probably number 2. If it doesn't work out at Missouri, in this transfer, maybe Oklahoma can come in, but it would make a lot of sense that he's going back home.
Unfortunately for us.
Yeah. Someone asked, what are the percentages or what are the chances of Hicks coming to OU? I'm going to say 0%. He's not in the portal.
That's such a lame answer.
I mean, he has hit the portal to have a chance.
I understand that, but you're factoring that into the question.
If I were to put a percentage on it right now with him not in the portal, I'd say 10%.
That's where I was going.
I wouldn't expect him to be on the roster next year. I just, don't get I wouldn't get my hopes up. If he hits the portal, I would feel a little bit better, but part of me thinks that, with a few guys transferring out, he might see himself having more of an opportunity to play consistently, and Walter Nolan being gone and whatnot. That could help maybe keep him at A&M.
And if we remember, thinking back to a year ago, outside of what we all suspect was NIL and influence from his parents, the one of the biggest things that was important to him was staying close to his younger brother, or one of his younger siblings, because he wanted to make sure he was able to be close to them for sports and growing up over the next few years while he's in college. I mean, obviously, as Sooner fans, we think going to Norman really isn't that big of a deal. Drive. I'm sure Oklahoma will more than happily make sure you're able to fly down when in the off season or during your bye week, so you can go visit family and see your younger siblings. But if that is one of the things that is still super important to him, you're gonna have a hard time telling him, hey, it's not that important.
Yeah, and we talked about Pride a little bit. Probably going to Missouri. Another guy is Dejon Malone from San Diego State. I don't know if you guys saw, but Oklahoma did offer him today, the corner out of San Diego State. So 6'2", 200 pounds, originally from Fresno, California. He's a junior. I think the defensive back room, and Brandon, you touched on a little earlier, is an important spot for Oklahoma to look at. I think maybe as in our live stream we talked about it a little bit more, but yeah, you're going to lose Woody Washington. Gentry Williams, when he's on the field, is great, but unfortunately the injury bug has been an issue for him. And Kenai Walker has been the depth's been, it's young, and then at times it's suspect. And so you bring in a guy that is a starter and plays consistently, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, 6'2" alone, I'm like, okay, that's a guy that could probably go play in the SEC.
I'm about to say, yeah, I mean, you're going to need those guys playing in the SEC. It seems like every receiver's 6'2" and up for the good teams. You can beat Vanderbilt with whoever, but
you can beat Vanderbilt no matter what. But
we're not going to the SEC to beat Vanderbilt.
No, that's a bare minimum right there. But I think you're going to see Oklahoma push him. Obviously, they would like to get Pride, but it seems like Pride is probably going elsewhere. But I mean, it's not official yet, of course. I would think Oklahoma would take at least one corner, maybe at second corner, but at least one in this.
I agree.
Transfer portal. But really talking about the offensive line, Oklahoma, I mean, we talked about it a little earlier. Oklahoma is losing a lot, whether it's transfer, graduation, NFL, draft. Oklahoma offered the kid from Michigan State, Spencer Brown, offensive lineman. He's talented. I can't exactly remember all of the offers that they've given along the offensive line, but I bet you'll see Oklahoma take probably 2 or 3 offensive linemen in this transfer portal. I think Oklahoma's going to take more transfers than they originally intended to, just because of what's happened in the portal to them a little bit along the offensive line and the running back room a touch. I bet Oklahoma takes 7 to 10 players, but that offensive line, I need to get an entire list, but I did see that they offered the Michigan State offensive lineman.
Oh yeah, I would assume they probably get 3 guys on the offensive line. A guy that can play tackle, someone that can play guard, maybe someone that can compete at center. Just because you do have, I think it's Troy Everett and Bates, and Everett can also play guard. So you kind of just got to figure out where you want to fit him for next season. If Joshua Bates is ready, slot him in as your center, and then you can give Troy Everett an opportunity to compete for a starting guard spot. But it is not a new offense per se, but a new play caller and someone new making the decisions. So it is to an extent an open season. You don't know who's the starters for sure. Probably pretty certain that your starting receivers, because someone we haven't talked about a lot, but in Jalil Farouk, we don't know that he's going to the NFL. He could come back.
I think he'll be back.
Yeah, Jalil, Nick, and
Andrell,
Jaquez, Andrell. Yeah, like there's plenty of talent in the wide receiver room that will be very familiar to this offense and what we've seen over the last year. Jackson Arnold's your quarterback. I think that one's a given. No one's really questioning that one. Your running backs, outside of your offensive line, is probably your biggest question mark. Who gets to be the number one? Probably Gavin Sawchuk, but if it's anything like we saw this year, you don't know until like game 7.
I think Gavin Sawchuk probably solidified himself as a starter for next season. I think tight end is probably the bigger question mark. I don't know what we're going to play at tight end next year, or at least to start the season.
Devon Mitchell.
I hope so. I definitely do. I think he's going to be nice, but he is young. He's a baby.
He is. And also, I mean, I just saw that Jalen Conyers, and I know it's not total news, but I forgot to mention, he does have a visit scheduled with Oklahoma.
That'd be a big get, literally. I think he's like 6'5", 270
Yeah.
or something. He's a big boy.
6'7".
Yeah.
He's large.
Yeah, he's visiting Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Georgia and Utah.
Do we know why he left Oklahoma the first time? Because the coach is the same.
I think there were some other issues that Oklahoma didn't want him to leave, and I don't think he wanted to leave Oklahoma, but I think there were some issues as far as, I don't know exactly, to be completely honest, and someone might be able to comment, but I want to say there could be something with the grades, but I don't, I can't say that confidently. I don't think he wanted to leave, to be honest.
Grades was a problem. I don't know how he got those up at Arizona State, because he probably had a good time here.
Arizona State doesn't do anything fun. What are you talking about? That's a strictly academic school.
He definitely didn't play football well. That's a team. He did as an individual, I guess.
Yep. Again, we're at an hour now. We're north of 300 viewers right now, which is definitely our first live stream with just us three on here. 19 subs away from 6,100. I mean, we're right there. I only need a handful of you guys to do that. It's free, easy. Turn that notification bell on so you know when we go live every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Central, and when we post regular videos. So be sure to do that and follow us on Twitter and Instagram for instant reactions and news and updates and whatnot.
Did any of our 7 portals, our 7 our candidates, surprise you guys? Besides Dillon, I think Dillon, I don't think we were all that surprised with, but of the 7, did any of those names kind of surprise you guys when their name was thrown in there?
I think Smothers was a shock to me, to be honest.
I agree. I think he's the only one really. Key, I'm a huge Key Lawrence fan. I know people are on the fence with him. I think he's good. I don't understand the Key hate sometimes that he gets. I was sad to see Key hit the portal.
I get why you say that, but when you look at the guys that have entered, they're either someone that hasn't gotten an opportunity to play for whatever reason, or they're 6-7 year guys and they play in a position where there's plenty of depth behind them that will be just as good, if not better, if you give them an opportunity to play. Like Key Lawrence, what is it, year 6, year 7 for him, as an example. You've got RSJ behind him, Peyton Bowen. If Billy Bowman comes back, then you've got your young guys, depending on who's back there, Makari, or if they decide to throw Kendall back there. There's depth there and Key Lawrence, maybe that one seems more of a processed out so that the coaches can get younger guys in rather than his decision to leave. Because I agree with you, he played really well. Like, he was ball hawk number 2 behind Gentry Williams.
I'm a big Key Lawrence guy. I don't know. He was hit and miss, but I liked him a lot. I think Dale Smothers is homesick. I think Sooner Cowboys has that right. I would be shocked if he didn't end up playing at some North Carolina school, probably NC State.
Yeah. Oh, and Lloyd did mention that the Arkansas running back, that's Raheem Sanders. Are you guys familiar with Raheem Sanders at all?
I thought it was Green. I thought there was a running back named Green who's from Tulsa.
AJ Green.
AJ Green, yeah. He went to Union, I think.
Rocket Sanders is the big name running back and he entered today, like a couple hours before we went live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Raheem Sanders, he didn't have a great year this year. I don't know exactly what went wrong. I mean, he played in some games, but it's Arkansas at the end of the day. They were a train wreck, but 2022, he had 222 carries, 1,443 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He would be a guy that could add some serious depth and some serious talent to that running back room. And that would be someone that I think Oklahoma should at least look at. Granted, whether he's interested in Oklahoma or not, I don't know. But that guy's good. And I don't blame him for wanting to get out of Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas.
Fayetteville's a cool place, though.
Oh yeah, the city's cool.
Wasn't enough.
Tipman is probably about to get fired.
Probably not. I mean, he's got 1 year left. His to save the program, he hired the former disgraced coach and Bobby Petrino to save the program.
I cannot believe that they hired that guy.
I can't.
After the motorcycle incident that he pulled there at Arkansas, and they're like, you know what, just come on back, bud. It doesn't matter. That's crazy.
Yeah. I guess with anything, it's just like enough time away, I guess, is...
Time heals all wounds.
Yeah.
That's what they
His
say.
neck is fine. I'm pretty sure his neck is doing just fine.
He did a great job as the Missouri State head coach before he left there.
I don't know why you'd ever want to leave Missouri.
Missouri State, baby. Yeah. Bear down.
That's the dream job right there.
The Missouri State head coach.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Do we take some questions now? See,
Some questions, maybe a little. I guess we can save our bowl predictions and stuff, considering that is still
Still got some
3
time.
weeks away. Is anybody going to the bowl game here in this chat? Me and Hose will be there.
are you guys actually going?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, everything's booked.
Are you guys?
I found a lovely Airbnb in San Antonio, man. I was so excited for it. And Hose said,
Did you guys get one twin bed or something?
No, there's us two, and then
I wish
a
we would
third
have had
person.
one twin bed.
That would have been real weird.
That would have been real comfortable. What are you talking about?
Nope.
Mhm.
There's three of us. We can talk about it afterwards, bro. But yeah, it'll be a good time. The Airbnb
Was lovely. Was
scandal.
lovely.
It was in a shitty neighborhood. I'm pretty sure we were gonna get stabbed on the way walking
It
back
was
from the Alamo
so.
Bowl.
It was you asked. Jose. We're looking at hotels last night and stuff, or he's looking at hotels, and he's like, "Hey, can one of you guys look at Airbnbs?" Sure, no problem. He's like, "Let's see if we can get one close to the Alamo Dome." The Airbnb I found, I'll send it to you.
Very close. He definitely he
It was-
hit the nail on the top.
It was a nice home.
In
The
a shitty
neighborhood was.
neighborhood.
It was okay. The home was beautiful. All right.
There's a
And
good chance you're getting
It had a 2-car garage. He could park his car. Everything would have been fine. You could take the train to the Riverwalk. Everything was set up nicely. I was super excited about it. It was cheap to split 3 ways. Our other person was about it too. And then you have Hose. But it's okay.
I wasn't
5
back
blocks from
inside.
the Alamo Dome.
We're so close.
Can't get much closer.
So how far are you guys away now?
I don't know.
We're right on the Riverwalk, and we're a 7-minute train ride to the Alamo Dome.
It better be super safe.
It just feels way safer than where that Airbnb was. The house was really nice. I will give him that. He delivered on the request, but
Yeah.
don't want to get shot.
Yeah. Boomer129 was KU ranked when we played them? No, they were not. I do not believe. Or
I
were
think
they?
they were. Weren't
No,
like
because they were.
23?
I think they were ranked. They were like 23 or 24, and then they had dropped the week prior to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Before they
and
played
fell
us.
out of that.
They definitely did not say ranked after.
They shot back into the rankings for a little bit after they beat Oklahoma. I think they climbed back up to like number 19 or 20 or something, and then
How many players are we losing to the draft?
I think you're gonna lose Tyler Guyton,
Walter Rouse.
Rain.
He's going to try the draft, I imagine.
but technically he's graduating though, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, so whatever. Yeah, losing a graduation, that's fine.
yeah, because the same could be said for like Drake Stoops or someone. Rain.
With Walter Rouse, do you think school was easy for him at Oklahoma?
Probably. Wasn't he a Stanford guy or something like that? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
he
probably wasn't too tricky.
I think you're losing 3 guys: Woody Washington, Graham, and Guyton. I think as far as early and declaring for the draft early, I don't think you're losing Billy Bowman or Danny Stutzman. I think both those guys come back. So
I think we've hit the nail in
3.
the coffin with Billy Bowman. Like the only reason he leaves is because Jada is out after her last season of softball. But it wouldn't make sense for him to stay back one more year.
I hope he comes back another year.
I did see a good question here earlier, and keep throwing them in the chat. I swear we're going to get to them.
Get to looking.
Here we go. How much is it player choice versus team choice to hit the portal?
It's a great question.
Situational. But I think when you got to look at how many years are left in that player's eligibility.
Do you think Dillon Gabriel's the guy that fits this question? Do you think he was kind of politely showed the door a little bit?
Mm-hmm. I think Dillon was a team choice, and a guy like someone we talked about, like Toriano, probably a player choice because he's talented. They have plenty of depth, but they could have definitely used his services at Clemson. But Dillon Gabriel, he's going into his 6th year. Oklahoma's ready to move on to their 5-star quarterback. Don't really need him back another year.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I think sometimes it's a mutual decision. Sometimes it's thanks but no thanks. But I do think it does come down, what depth do you have behind a player? Who needs to see the field? Who's the better player? And unfortunately, I think some of those conversations are tough conversations that you might need to look elsewhere.
And with that quarterback situation, it seems like the entire team, even the guys leaving the program, have fully bought into Jackson Arnold being the guy for the future, and the future being like next year. Because Billy Bowman was on that show
with Toby.
That's with Toby. Yeah, that was at Rudy's, and he said Jackson has developed a lot, is good at reading defenses, and has an NFL arm.
Said he's going to be the next big thing at OU, which I think we all agree with.
Drake Stoops said something similar. Like, you've got guys talking very highly about him, and Ethan Downs said something very similar about PJ. So these guys are buying into like how good the ceiling talent is.
For sure. Oklahoma's in good hands. Oklahoma's talented, and I think Oklahoma is going to be very active in this portal. Another guy that I failed to mention earlier, but also the Michigan State offensive line, is Geno Vandemark. Oklahoma offered him too today.
It's a good thing Michigan State's a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, just come in and.
Do you think quarterback is an area that we will address in the portal? Because I think it's getting some comments, and I think we definitely need to at least consider the possibility. I think Mike Hawkins is going to be good, but he's also similar to Devon Mitchell. Is going to be a baby next year.
I mean, don't you have General Booty?
Do we want to roll with General Booty?
Probably not. It could be.
I think they're
maybe.
fine.
General Booty was listed behind Davis Bevel on the depth chart, which I don't know, that could be telling.
Very concerning.
Yeah.
Is Davis coming back? Does that guy have eligibility?
Hopefully not.
Well,
respectfully,
as long as he never plays and is a third stringer.
That's what I'm saying. I think you need to consider a backup quarterback in the portal.
I think that's probably why they took 2 guys.
They might, but part of me also thinks that they won't, because at least you might be young at this position, but you'll have talent throughout. I mean, when you throw Mike Hawkins out there, you feel a little bit better than maybe you did with Davis Bevel. I mean, the ceiling is much higher for a Michael Hawkins.
Hose, we got attacked here.
I know. Joe Nunez, I'm coming back to you, bud. Yeah, did you also see that he got to play a lot of football because he's good at it?
He makes big plays. You think about that forced fumble against SMU, which potentially wins you the game because they were driving at that point. He punches the ball loose. Oklahoma recovers. He's got a pick against Cincinnati. It feels like a couple of years ago he was the number 1 corner on the team. Like I think Key Lawrence is a guy that, yeah, he's not perfect. No one's perfect. I don't know. I'm a big Key Lawrence guy. I think he'll do well at his next school.
The same thing was said about Stutzman, and I don't want to compare them because they're very different players. I think Stutzman has grown a lot, but after year 1 with Brent Venables, people were saying Stutzman really wasn't that good. Then you see him in year 2, and he's one of the best linebackers in the country. Not that Key Lawrence made that kind of jump, but Key Lawrence isn't. Maybe he's not a first round, second round, third round guy in the NFL, but he's not. He's not terrible. He's good.
The problem is, and why I kind of understand it, is the inconsistency. It was a roller coaster. The highs were high, the lows were low, and
I think he was, in my opinion, when I watched the games, and obviously everyone's kind of sees things differently, and that seems like our friend Joe here saw a lot of, the biggest thing was the missed tackles. I think he was put in a position to try to play the Reggie Pearson role when Reggie got hurt and suspended for the half of football, and he's just not that guy. Key Lawrence can support and try to play in the box, but Reggie Pearson and Billy Bowman are better at doing that than Key Lawrence. Key Lawrence is your ball hawk, the guy that should be back there trying to stop big plays.
Is Justin Harrington back next year? Does he have another year? I feel like he should. I don't know because he's been there forever, but I feel like he should.
I think he's getting a medical red shirt. So, yeah, I think he...
That's a guy I felt so bad for because it seemed like this season, and granted it was very young. I think he went out week 2, week 3, week 2 or something like that. But he seemed like he was finally putting it all together, like he was going to have a big year in that cheetah slot, and unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think he'd be huge to have back next year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Danny Stutzman, I think he comes back. I think he 100% will come back and be that defensive leader going in the SEC.
Danny feels Baker-like with wanting to come back. Because I bet if he goes to the NFL now, he's a third-round pick. Maybe second, depending on team needs.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's so much concerned with improving his draft stock, but just wanting to help.
He's a program guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he wants to come back and he wants to compete. I think he knows how close we are. Legitimately close, not Lincoln Riley close. I think this team can be good next year. So that's a great question. I was about to ask you to put that up because that's a need.
I don't know who it would be.
Boomer from Central Florida.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I would think they're exploring all their options, whoever is available, or anything and everything. Every stone has to be, turned over, vetted. They have to.
I think it's even more important than ever next season because I think you can be in a lot of games. Like you're telling me, that Alabama game could very well come down to a kick if we hit it here. If we hit, that there's a lot of games at LSU. There's a lot of games where we're going to need someone that we can trust kicking the ball. Because, it's unfortunate for Zach Schmidt. Like, I don't think there was any kick in the field that I felt comfortable with. It used to be like, if we're within 30 yards, I feel pretty good he's going to hit it. And then he misses a 23-yarder against BYU. So, like, everything was a worrisome kick when he took the field, it felt like.
Maybe outside of the extra points. And at times I still got a little stressed on those. I mean, there has to be someone new.
I was trying to defend Zach Schmidt, but I went back and looked at our early episodes in the season just because I got bored and a little stoned, to be honest. I mentioned that it was just game 1. That was really the only time he did it. But his kicks were line drives for the point afters. Then they got better, but yeah, I think I tried to defend him for too long. He's not a good kicker. But are there kickers that enter the portal?
I would think so. I feel like the kicker position is just like quarterback. I think a good kicker will will be in high demand because everyone needs a kicker.
It's just frustrating for me watching like the Liberty kicker when he hits a 50-yard field goal, and I'm like, man, that must be nice. Like, how can we be Oklahoma, a national powerhouse, and not have somebody that can kick?
Kickers do decide games, especially in the SEC. Look at Missouri. I think Missouri could easily have been they won 10 games this year, right?
Yeah,
probably could have been an 8, even 7-win team if it wasn't for their kicker coming up clutch. They beat K-State early in the year with a 50 something
60.
yarder, 60
60
yarder. Yeah, I mean, you need a kicker.
100%. I just don't know what the market would even look like for him. But someone on campus tryouts, a soccer player.
Boomer would do well at OU. His last name is Boomer. You got like Subasi. You gotta think the NIL money, so whatever money you can. Like, there's so many things you can do with that as his last name.
I'll start stretching my hip, doing leg work only when I go to the gym. I've got 4 years left. You guys do too. Let's go try out.
Sounds good.
I think I might be worse than Zach Schmidt, boys.
I think I might
say
too.
it.
I don't know. It's
easy to judge from the couch, but
no.
But you do need to be better than that.
I mean,
Yep.
I guess.
So, well, you guys have any other thoughts?
Good time
Or,
today.
Yeah, fun live. Shout out, y'all. 300 is awesome. That's really cool.
yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to hit 6,100 as our goal. We are 16 away.
Come on.
But
Hey,
maybe
that's
the goal-
okay. That's still a
It's still solid.
that's a +9 night, right? You said we came in at 25 away.
Yeah, +9. I think once this video posts officially, I think we'll hit 6,100. But again, yeah, went to like 310, 315 live people watching. Appreciate it. Be sure to definitely like the video before you close out of it right now. Helps us out a lot. Subscribe, as I said earlier. Turn the notification bell on so you know when we go live.
Mike,
yeah.
we're aware we have 5-star kickers. We talked about them 2 years ago.
But
he also got hurt as a kicker, which I don't even understand how that happened. And
Party
yeah,
too
I would
hard?
not consider ourselves insiders.
Yeah.
Actually,
there.
We're 100% not insiders.
No, we're there.
I'm just gonna throw that right now.
Yep. Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And we'll catch you guys next week on our